The inspiration of the HHP came from various childhood activities played by Michael Hudon and Claudio Attanasio. One of the earliest video games in the late 80s was an ice hockey game, where statistics were collected on a yearly basis. In the early 90s, a new game arose, Face Off. It was here where stats were collected for lineups. You could create new lines, up to 3, and you would also have a team farm system. Each team could play a total of 80 games and win the championship. Wayne Gretzky's ice hockey also revolutionized statistical play. Wayne Gretzky ice hockey captivated all statistics of an entire NHL season. You could modify lineups, you can create new teams, you can make trades, and also have a farm system. By 1991, Hudon and Claudio created the Sharks ball hockey team, which joined the Martin Skirt Ball Hockey League. It was here where we drafted a team, held practices, and went for the championship. In August of 1995, Hudon held the very first football draft. Its success instantly inspired Attanasio and Hudon to create the Hudon Hockey Pool. Finally, their dream came true, where owners could create their teams, lineups, rosters, and go for the championship. On Sunday, September 24th of 1995, the dream was a reality. The very first HHP entry draft was held on Family Crescent in the basement of Hudon's parents' house. We had a total of 11 teams. We needed one more team. 15 minutes before the draft, Hudon called Martin Skirt. With his bicycle, he came to Hudon's basement in 12 minutes. The Flames franchise was established, and the very first HHP entry draft started. The first pick was by Boombastic, who drafted Eric Lindros. 12 teams were established. The Wolverines and FC Canadiens were the very first 2 teams, followed by AC Milan, the Leafs, Flames, Demons, Blues, Giants, Due North, Boombastic, Juventus, and the Bruins. The first trade actually occurred within the first week between AC Milan and no other than the Wolverines. The HHP rulebook was a mere 1.5 pages. Very simple rules, 12 teams, 12 players, a total of 6 forwards, 4 defensemen, and 2 goalies. You could not mix and match the number of goalies, defensemen, and forwards, and you needed to trade position for position. The entry fee was $15, and the playoffs were all 1-game rounds. Hudon would personally go around delivering the weekly newsletter to everyone's house on his either bicycle or automobile. He established the first red hot rumor mill, and within the first month and a half, Claudio Attanasio created the very first HHP team logo. FC Canadian logo was born. Wolverines followed suit, using CorelDRAW to create it, and then AC Milan. From then on, every team wanted a logo. Finally, the first HHP playoffs occurred in 1996, where the Blues and the Wolverines met in the finals. The Blues, owned by Mr. Leon Arias, won the very first HHP championship. 1996 to 1998 years marked the early years of the HHP. The success of the first year was embraced by all, and it called for an expansion. So the pool expanded from 12 teams to 16 teams. Simple expansion rules were created where teams were able to protect certain players, and we held our first expansion draft. We also initiated the yearly yearbook, which contained statistical information, team write-ups, and scheduling. The expansion teams included the Blackhawks, Bass Inc., the Bulls, and the Stampeders. But within the first 3 weeks, the Stampeders sold their franchise to Luciano Fazio and Saverio Biscioni. The pool also introduced a new feature called the weekly newsletter, which contained rumors, contained the latest trades and latest gossip that occurred in the HHP. The HHP also established a time for the HHP Players Association. The Player Association protected the current owners from changes of HHP head office. It would overlook any rule changes and sometimes even trades. The HHP Player Association only lasted for about a year and a half till it was dismantled. The second year rule changes included the addition of the current waiver draft, and the entrance fee to the pool was raised to $35. Season 3 had some changes as well. We saw the success of Season 2. Season 3 now had an entry fee of $50. We also included an injury reserve list, so teams could pay $5 to protect players. And the very first supplemental draft was implemented. The waivers was slightly modified, and protection of 4 players occurred for any position. Also, in the 1997-1998 season, we established the very first HHP website. This third year was also pivotal in forming the future Reform HHP. Early in '97, Hudon and Atanasio met to create the basis of the current HHP structure, which contained contract information and a new way of thinking. There were not many rule changes within the next few seasons of the HHP. Our website continued to evolve, where teams had a place to enter their lineups. There was also a message board for general managers to discuss trades and also to post trades. The next few seasons leading up to the 2001-2002 implementation of the HHP reform had very little disruptions. In Season 5, the Giants franchise defunct and was sold to Sam Fazio and Mike Arizza of the Screaming Eagles. Within the first few months, Dan Arizza and Dan Luciani of Blue Thunder purchased the Bulls for a record $130. This season also saw a brand new website, and it was announced on Season 6 that the HHP would move forward to reformation. Season 6 was a preparatory year, which allowed teams to sign up to a maximum of 11 players to multi-year contracts. Season 6 caused several teams to leave the HHP. Franchises such as the Demons and Juventus threatened to leave the pool, and in fact sold their franchises. 2 brothers, Sam and Luch Fazio, both split from their current teams. Luch Fazio of the Chiefs purchased the Bruins and changed names to Oakville Smoke. Sam Fazio of the Screaming Eagles purchased the Demons and quickly changed the team name to the Devils. Season number 7 was the first season in which the HHP reformation came to full swing. Finally, Hudon's and Atanasio's dream became a reality. General managers were true general managers, in which they can sign players to multi-year contracts, bid on restricted and unrestricted free agents, and finally allowing general managers to take full responsibility of team finances. This created a new level, a level that was never achievable in the previous years of the HHP. The HHP finally became more realistic, more like a hockey league. A polling system was added to the league, and the third generation website was created, which is so familiar with many of the teams today. In Season 8, Juventus was sold to Joe Spano. Due North was sold to Michael Bowers and changed his team name to Methods of Mayhem. And in Season 8, expansion Phase 2 was discussed to go from 16 teams to 18 teams. In Season 9, Joe Spano changed his team name from Juventus to the Jaguars. The expansion procedures and processes were established, and 2 new expansion teams were chosen: Excalibur and Skull Crushers. The 2004-2005 entry draft was the 10th year of the pool, and it was during then that Excalibur and Skull Crushers were introduced. At the same time, the NHL was going through a lockout, so it was a lockout season. No season occurred during the HHP. This landmark season also saw 2 teams leave the HHP. Bass Inc. was sold to Randy Luciani, who the year before was the coach of the Screaming Eagles. The Flames, one of the original franchises, was sold to Jason Isles, who then changed the names to the Outlaws. It was in the modern era that teams such as Blackhawks, Boombastics, and Skull Crushers circumvented several rules, exploiting them. This caused the HHP head office to come up with new proposals, and one still stands today, where dollar for dollar, if a team goes over their salary cap, they are penalized 100% luxury tax. January of 2006 marked the very first General Managers Winters meeting, and it was here some rule changes were discussed, such as dropping the unrestricted free agency to age 29. And a year later, it was announced at the General Managers Winter meeting that the HHP would expand for a 3rd time, bringing its teams to 20 teams. New proposals were drafted, and a new system for expansion was created. The 2 teams were the Giants, who were bought by Norm Panu, and the Untouchables, who was bought by Armando Simeone. His original team name was TriStars, and it was banned by the HHP. Later, through some determination and lobbying, the TriStars were allowed to keep the TriStar name. The HHP was at 20 teams. General managers were wheeling and dealing, and it was common for the HHP to have over 200 transactions. Winter meetings, entry drafts were full of great food and fun. The Smoke won the very first back-to-back championships. Boombastic would follow suit, winning the next 2 consecutive HHP championships. And there was always talk behind the scenes for a farm system. Finally, in 2009 winter meeting, the proposal was drafted, heavily backed by Sam Pichoni's vision, screened and brought up to the teams. It was a reality. 2 years later, the farm system would be in full effect. The current era of the HHP is the most stable by far. All owners and general managers are in the HHP not for the prize, but for the pride. Skate Farm and the farm system is in full effect. Rules are for the betterment of the pool, not for the team. The Crescent Cup was also introduced, a throwback to recognize the street in which the first HHP draft was held on family crescent. But this current era has also had several changes. Skull Crushers left the pool 2011-2012 and was sold to Roberto Febraro and the Goons. A year after, the controversial Blackhawks and Boobastics left the pool. Blackhawks was sold to Blue Thunder's other half, Dan Ariza, changed name to Young Guns. Blue Thunder changed name to Thunder, and Boobastic was sold to the Mustangs. This era also saw the loss of another original HHP team. George of Haptos bought AC Milan, then changed the name to AC Stingrays, leaving the pool with only 4 original franchises, and which only 2 were owners from day one, FC Canadians and Wolverines. The Blues and the Leafs kept their names since the first day of the HHP. This era also introduced a new website, a brand new yearbook design, which was created by Severin Pichoni, the use of fan tracks, and social interactions with Twitter and the mobile app. And 2010 introduced the HHP administrators. The pool was too big to handle. The administration included Dan Ariza, Armando Simeone, Claudio Attanasio, Michael Hura, Jason Isles, and Norm Anu. The pool has withstood the test of time, surpassing several friendships, creating new friendships, surpassing several of our wedding anniversaries. It continues to be the basis of heated discussions, happy times, and triumph times. The pool continues to be a staple in our lives.